All right, let's talk about something huge happening in the tech world. There's this massive paradox. Companies are pouring billions and billions of dollars into artificial intelligence, but for some reason, most of these projects are just failing. So today we're going to break down exactly why that's happening, and more importantly, give you a playbook to make sure your AI projects actually work.
Okay, so let's just kick things off with a pretty sobering number. Some studies show that a whopping 85% of AI projects either never make it into the real world or just get scrapped halfway through. That's a crazy high failure rate, and honestly, it's a super expensive experiment that most companies just can't afford to keep running.
So that's a big question, right? Why is this happening? If the technology is supposed to be so revolutionary, what's going so terribly wrong when people try to actually use it? The answer? Well, it might actually surprise you. This leads us right into what we're calling the AI failure paradox. And here's the secret. It's not the tech that's failing. It's not the algorithms. It's not the models. Nope. The real problems are happening on a much more basic level.
And this is the absolute key takeaway. Whether an AI project succeeds or fails has very little to do with the AI model itself. It's about everything else around it. The strategy, the data, the people, the core architecture. Think of it like scaffolding. If that collapses, the whole project is coming down with it.
So to really get a handle on this, we've boiled down all the reasons for these failures into 3 main themes. Let's jump into the first one and see how this all gets started.
Okay, cause number 1. This is probably the biggest one, and it's starting with the wrong question. You see it all the time. Companies start with this fuzzy idea of, hey, we need to do something with AI, instead of focusing on a sharp, specific business problem. And without any clear goals or ways to measure success, these projects just kind of drift along until they eventually run out of steam or money. And this slide, I think, really nails the problem. It's this huge gap between the hype and the reality. On one hand, you've got leaders who think AI is some kind of magic wand that's going to give them instant profits and perfect answers. But the reality? AI is a long-term investment that needs constant tweaking, tons of training, and a real plan for getting people to use it. When your expectations are that far from reality, it's a total recipe for disappointment. All right, on to the second big reason, weak foundations. I mean, you can't build a skyscraper on sand, right? Think of it this way. Your AI model is a high-performance engine. But what's the fuel? It's the data. And if your data is a mess, if it's siloed, incomplete, or just plain bad, that engine is going to sputter out before it even gets started. And get this. A crazy 70% of AI projects get completely stuck right at the data stage. You know, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? You can have the smartest data scientists on the planet and the fanciest models money can buy, but if your data is garbage, your AI is going to be garbage too. It really is that simple. And that brings us to our third and final cause, completely forgetting about the people and the process. I mean, you can build the most perfect, incredible model in the world, but if nobody actually uses it, what's the point? For this to work, you have to get your subject matter experts, your engineers, and your business leaders all in the same room working together. And you absolutely need a real plan for getting people on board, training them, explaining the changes, and building trust. It's so often treated like an afterthought, but it should be something you're thinking about from day one. Okay, so we've talked a lot about what goes wrong. That's kind of depressing. Let's flip the script and talk about how to get it right. What are those top-performing companies, that successful 5 to 20%, doing that everyone else isn't?
Wow. Okay, just look at this chart for a second. This says everything about the power of doing your homework. Projects that do a simple architecture audit before they start building, a 95% success rate. And the ones that don't, just 20%. That's the massive difference between engineering a real capability and just funding a risky experiment.
So what's the secret sauce for these successful teams? Well, it turns out it's not a secret at all. It's just good old-fashioned discipline. They always start with a business problem, not the tech. They are obsessed with data quality. They build strong, scalable systems from the get-go with teams that mix different skills. They constantly monitor their models in the real world using something called MLOps, and they plan for how people will use the tool right from the start. All right, so how do you actually do this? We've taken all these good habits and boiled them down into a super clear, actionable framework that you can use to guide your own projects. Let's walk through it. Here you go. This is your 7-step guide to actually succeeding with AI. 1. Define a real business problem you can measure. 2. Get your data in order. Audit everything. 3. Assess your technical architecture before you write a single line of code. 4. Create those mixed-skilled teams. 5. Build in stages, from a small test to a pilot to the full rollout. 6.
Use MLOps to keep an eye on your models. And 7, weave training and communication into the entire process.
So, if there's one thing you take away from all this, it should be this. AI failures are not some unavoidable accident. They're almost always preventable. Success isn't about getting lucky or finding some magic algorithm. It's about being deliberate. It's about engineering success from the ground up by focusing on a strong foundation.
And that really leaves us with one last big question that I want you to think about. Take a look at what's happening in your own organization. Are you just funding a bunch of cool but expensive, disconnected experiments? Or are you actually engineering a long-term strategic capability that's going to deliver real, lasting value? Because honestly, the answer to that question will make all the difference.